Cricket is where we begin on the SportsMax zone. Caribbean fans might well be scratching their heads in a state of panic as the nightmare of the West Indies failing to qualify for the ICC 50-over World Cup is close to being reality. The Windies suffered a shock super over defeat to the Netherlands in their final group fixture at the ICC qualifying tournament in Zimbabwe on Monday. Jason Holder was dispatched for a boundary of every delivery of his super over, conceding a record 30 runs. Johnson Charles managed a 6 of the first ball of the Windies' reply, but consecutive wickets from player of the match Logan van Beek saw the Windies end on 8 for 2. Earlier, Nicholas Pooran stroked an unbeaten 104 of 65 deliveries to push the Caribbean men to 374 for 6 of their 50 overs. Brandon King, 76, and Johnson Charles, 54, both scored half-centuries. Teja Nedamanuru replied with a fantastic 111 to lead the Dutch to 374 for 9. The match ending in a tie. He shared in a vital fifth-wicket partnership of 143 with Scott Edwards, the captain, who added 67. Roston Chase was the pick of the Windies bowlers with 3 for 77, while Azari Joseph took 2 for 73, becoming the fastest West Indian to 100 one-day international wickets. Let's turn to Fazir Mohammed for a reaction to what happened earlier on Monday. Faz, the West Indies are close to being out of World Cup contention. A defeat to the Netherlands that, despite Saturday's effort against Zimbabwe, not many saw coming, especially after putting up 374.
Yeah, Ricardo, and I think that is the sort of the soul-destroying element of it, that you got 374. The Dutch were struggling early on, and then they had that big partnership. But even then, coming down to the last couple of overs, you thought the West Indies would have still been able to pull it off. And then even being rescued of that final ball with the catch taken by Jason Holder, again, the feeling would have been, okay, the West Indies have gotten out of jail once again, only to be humiliated even more. And I think what adds to it, and I think the perspective is important in two ways. One, 5 years ago, Afghanistan went into the Super Sixes without a point. They won all their matches, other results went their way, and they went to the World Cup. So all is not completely lost for the West Indies, even though it feels that way. Secondly, the Dutch are missing almost their entire frontline bowling attack. Because for those who would have been following coverage leading up to this tournament, they would have recognized that a lot of the associate member nations are very aggrieved about the way things are set up. And indeed, many of their prominent players have opted to play English county cricket or to seek their fortunes elsewhere on a more permanent basis. So when you add up all of that, Ricardo, you can understand, maybe I want to contradict you and say, not so much shock, but almost utter bewilderment as to how the West Indies can somehow manage to contrive to lose this particular fixture.
Yeah, there are some, what I consider to be questionable decisions on the part of the West Indies team, especially at the back end of the contest, and I want you to comment on them. One of them, Roston Chase bowling the 49th over that went for 19 runs. Jason Holder bowling the super over, and then Shea Hope, one of the batsmen to come out when the West Indies needed 31 to win.
Seems Faz didn't hear us.
I think Faz froze again for the third time in less than 2 weeks. But yes, Lance, I found a few of those decisions to be quite questionable, especially the Jason Holder decision to bowl the super over, because I note that Jason Holder had went for 59 runs in his 10 overs. But if you break that down, the first 5 would have gone for 18, and then his next 5 at the back end would have gone for 41. Darren Sammy is the West Indies white ball head coach. Let's hear from him about today's performance.
We were kind of poor tactically. We didn't stick to the plans as long as possible, and we just thought, because we had 375 on the board, we should win. But cricket is not played like this, and it's a lesson for us that you can't take any game of cricket for granted. I look at every day and I see what positives we could take from it. And obviously, as disappointed as I am and the guys in the dressing room, you have to understand I'm a very positive thinker. And I understand the journey that I have to take with this team. Sometimes you got to reach rock bottom to come back up. I understand the challenges ahead. And yeah, I also understand that things will not change overnight. And it's a true reflection of where our cricket is at the moment. And we have a lot of work to do.
It is a true reflection of where our cricket is at the moment, and Darren Sammy is very much right that I think the West Indies felt that having 374 on the board in and of itself was enough for them to go on and win the match. And if you look, Lance, at the way they handled themselves in the field at will for the entire 50 overs, especially in that 143-run fifth-wicket partnership, the Dutch players were dropping the ball directly to fielders, taking off for singles. They were hitting the ball directly to the long-off fielder and taking twos when it should be one. They were hitting the ball to deep mid-wicket and coming back for second, even when it was straight to the fielder. Yeah. And the type of urgency that you would expect from on the part of a West Indies team trying to make it to a World Cup was just not there. At no point throughout the innings were the adjustments made. And as Darren Sammy said, tactically, we were poor, especially in the field, extremely poor. And I think they really have only themselves to blame. I think this is as bad a performance as I've ever seen from a West Indies cricket team at any level.
The fact is, one of the deficiencies of West Indies performances that we have highlighted over the past couple of decades is their application. And I think they were given a lesson today in application from the Netherlands, because they knew what they had to do to win the game, and they did every single thing right.
Yeah.
When they were chasing, everything right.
That is a fact. I think we have Fazir Mohammed back with us. Faz, I was putting the question to you just to get a comment on what I consider to be a few questionable decisions. Roston Chase bowling the 49th over, Jason Holder bowling the super over, and then Shea Hope, one of the batsmen, coming out when we needed 31 to win.
Ricardo, I understand the point that you're making, but when I see a committee meeting in the middle of every over or after every over, when it's a tense finish, that tells you there is no clear plan. You could dance around it how much you want. It's obvious, because if you had a clear plan, you wouldn't need a committee meeting after every over when it gets tight. Secondly, this sloppiness in the field is unforgivable. It is inexcusable. And again, it begs the question, and it's I suppose we should be surprised, but really we're not surprised to hear Darren Sammy talking about tactically poor, players becoming complacent with 374 on the board. He talked about, after the Zimbabwe match, it's about time that we buck up with our feeling at practice and so on. So what is really going on in Zimbabwe? What, is it a joyride? And again, those who are being defensive of the players will be saying, you're being too harsh on them and go easy on them and whatever. This is West Indies cricket we're talking about. And again, I ask myself the question, that hunger, that desire, that understanding of whom you are representing, who you are representing, what those 2 stars mean. Do you even know what they mean? World Cup winners, 75, 79 and so on. Do our players even understand and therefore have that level of desperation to do what is required when it comes to crunch time, as it has been on a couple of occasions already in this tournament? And clearly, not just by the evidence on the field and the sloppiness, the amateurishness on the field, but the utterances by the head coach tell you that they clearly aren't mentally, technically, or physically prepared for this challenge.
Yeah, as by your answer, I'm suggesting that you are sidestepping Ricardo's question about Roston Chase bowling the penultimate over, Jason Holder the super over, and Shea Hope being one of the batsmen in the super over. You are suggesting, it seems, that the West Indies lost the match outside of those strategic decisions.
Absolutely, because again, the message that I am getting, and of course I could be wrong, no problem with that. The West Indies can still qualify, as I said, as we saw with Afghanistan, but it won't change my opinion that it didn't matter at that stage who the West Indies put on to bowl. Because again, you got the sense that a team that is almost rudderless, a team that didn't have a clear focus. It's all, again, the coach himself said it. When the West Indies got 374, maybe mentally already in the dressing room, they had won the match. And that is not how you play cricket. That's not how you play any sport. You play football to the last whistle. You play every game. You believe that every ball in tennis is going to hit the line and not go outside, so you get ready to play. And clearly, again, those tactical issues must be looked at. But again, when you look at the sum total of West Indies' performances so far, it speaks to an amateurishness that is very, very, very disheartening, to put it that way.
Yeah, I understand your response, Fazir. Now that we have spoken about the West Indies' deficiencies in this game, which were many, by the way, talk to us about the Netherlands' application, because I used that word a few minutes ago, and that's what they used to win the match. We saw a man making 100, and he wasn't man of the match. And it tells you that Van Beek's effort was the pivotal performance, even though there was 100 there as well. And overall, the sort of application that the Dutch side displayed today made them worthy winners, I thought.
Absolutely. There's no question that the Dutch didn't deserve to win this. We could spend now till Kingdom Come arguing about tactics and who should have this and who should have done that and who should have taken what catch or whatever. The fact is that the associate member nations are bitter about how they're being treated by the ICC. And therefore, this is their opportunity to really show it and have a sense of motivation and drive to almost embarrass the ICC with the way they've structured this tournament and the World Cup.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll say, and I hear you, Faz, and completely agree with everything that you have said, but watching this tournament, I have concluded that the West Indies is a difficult to beat associate nation as far as one-day international cricket is concerned right now. Difficult to beat, but we were beaten by Zimbabwe. Difficult to beat, but we were beaten by Netherlands. For me, the fact is, right now, we're just not good enough. I think the bowling, I want to use poor, and not just because of today's effort, but I just don't think that bowling lineup is as penetrative as you need it to be in one-day international cricket. And somewhere along the line, we have gotten this idea that it's okay to go into one-day international cricket with bits and pieces bowlers and not have enough firepower in terms of the ability to take wickets consistently throughout the course of 50 overs. And I guess we can delve more into all of that in the coming days, but it is an extremely sad day for West Indies cricket. And as I said, Faz, it's probably the worst performance I've ever seen on a cricket field from any West Indies team. That's how bad I thought we were in this match against the Netherlands. We're out of time, Faz.
Indeed. We have been living in a fool's paradise for about 28 years. But again, we hopefully will have some more time to delve deeper into that.
That's so much of my life, Faz. Thanks. We'll go to a break.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.